Yes, we'll be starting right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this first ever Pan-Canadian Patient Forum organized by the Patient Working Group of the Marathon of Hope Cancer Center Network. My name is Catalina Lopez-Correa, and I am honored to be your host today. I am a genomic scientist, a medical doctor, and a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in April 2023. And most recently, I am the co-chair. I started as the co-chair of the patient working group, the group of incredible patients and caregivers who is organizing this event today. So welcome from across the country. And on behalf of the patient working group and the entire Marathon of Hope Cancer Center Network team, I am happy to welcome you to this very exciting event. We have registrants from across the country joining today, from Newfoundland and Labrador to Vancouver Island. I'm based actually in Vancouver, from Windsor, Ontario to the Northern Territories. Thank you for taking the time on a Sunday, and in particular on a sunny Sunday, to be part of this important event. Before we start today, our exciting program, I want to say that I am grateful to be joining you from the ancestral, traditional, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Our speakers and panelists are participating here today from different regions in the country, on lands that are home to diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit populations. I invite each of you to honor and pay respect to those peoples and to reflect on their historic connections to the lands and waters that we all call home. We'll start with a couple of housekeeping items here. So first, all your mics and cameras, your microphones and cameras have been disabled to make sure that we have a good flow. So while you can see us, nobody can see you or hear you. All the questions and comments you submitted during the registration have really been super helpful to shape this event. And we thank you for sharing your thoughts and your questions and your comments. Feel free today to submit all the questions or comments by using the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom window. You will not see the questions coming in the screen, and we might not be able to address all the questions or those questions today, but we promise that we will read them carefully and we will use them to shape future events and materials that we're developing and activities of the network. So your questions and opinions are very important to us. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker today. Darrell Fox is Terry's younger brother and a senior advisor of Terry Fox Research Institute, which co-leads the Marathon of Hope Cancer Center Network with Terry Fox Foundation. Darrell will be providing some remarks today on behalf of the entire Fox family. Darrell?
Thank you, Catalina, and hello, everyone. It is an honor to be here today to open the first Pan-Canadian Patient Forum organized by the Marathon of Hope Cancer Center Network's Patient Working Group. Today, you will learn about precision oncology, how it's helping Canadians across the country, and how the network is reaching out to even more Canadians affected with cancer. But before we go there, I want to take us back 46 years to Terry's Marathon of Hope. When we reflect on the Marathon of Hope, we often think about the marathon Terry attempted to run every day, the 24 million raised, or the legacy he left for all of us. But at its heart, the Marathon of Hope began with something much simpler and much more powerful. Terry's vision and voice was one of a single cancer patient. I know there are many patients and caregivers in the audience today. I'm excited, honored, and moved to be here today with you because I know how much it would mean to Terry. Terry was an average and ordinary Canadian when he was first diagnosed with cancer on March 3rd, 1977. I remember that night at Royal Columbian Hospital over 49 years ago now, as if it were last week. Terry recognized his family was not coping well with the shocking news that he had just received. After a few emotional moments, Terry composed himself and then shared with us he would try his very best to beat cancer. The word cancer was foreign to Terry when he was first diagnosed and was told his right leg would be amputated within the week. It was the next 16 months of chemotherapy where Terry experienced the pain of others that awakened Terry and provided him with a purpose in life. His promise was that if he ever walked away from the cancer ward alive, he would never forget those that he had left behind. That promise became the Marathon of Hope. That promise has evolved into the Marathon of Hope Cancer Centers Network. I had the honor of being by Terry's side in 1980 as Terry took on the impossible and proving to us all that limitations are self-imposed. I was a witness to how Terry used his voice as a patient to make a difference, and Canadians listened. Over the last 46 years, they've rallied behind Terry's call to action, coming together every year to support impactful cancer research in his name. I'm only one member of the Marathon of Hope, Terry would say. I'm equal with all of you. The Marathon of Hope Cancer Centers Network is built on the idea that if we all work together, we can make a bigger impact on the lives of cancer patients. 46 years have passed since Terry's Marathon of Hope, but his spirit and dream lives on in the network, in labs and clinics across the country, and in all of you. You wouldn't be here if that were not the case. This forum is a powerful reminder of how the voices of cancer patients continue to shape research and care. Your experiences, your insights, and your stories are helping to guide how research is conducted, how care is delivered, and how we define success in research and care. Through the Marathon of Hope Cancer Centers Network, we've seen firsthand how important that is. From the very beginning, patients have been at the table helping to design studies, shape priorities, and ensure that what we do is grounded in what truly matters. It is this incredible group of patients, our Marathon of Hope Cancer Center Network Patient Working Group, that is organizing this event. They remind us every day, just like Terry did, that we can't improve our research and care without knowing how patients experience cancer and what their priorities are. Forums like this one are so important because they create space for connection, for learning, and for honest conversation. They bring together people from across the country who share a common purpose to make the cancer experience better for everyone. That's exactly what Terry hoped for and dreamed of. He once said, even if I don't finish, we need others to continue. It's got to keep going without me. And it has kept going because of people like you. People who are willing to share their stories, people who are willing to spend hours in labs and clinics across the country, people who are determined to make a difference. So today I want to thank you, not just for being here, but for using your voices. Because just like Terry showed us, one voice can spark a movement. And together, those voices can change the future of cancer. On behalf of my family, I want to thank the Patient Working Group for organizing this event and congratulate them for their incredible contributions to cancer research. I also want to thank each and every one of you for attending this event. And now I'd like to hand off to Isabel Serrano, my friend and colleague and managing director of the network, to share a few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darrell. Your words are always a beautiful reminder that our work is tied to the marathon against cancer that Terry started so many years ago. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this exciting event. We have registrants from every province joining us today and many people who will be watching this in their own time. Thank you all for tuning in. In my role at the Terry Fox Research Institute, I get to see firsthand how the dollars fundraised by the Terry Fox Foundation and by government initiatives support rigorous science, meaningful collaboration, and measurable improvements in cancer treatment. I'm fortunate to bring together people's expertise, passion, generosity, and resilience around a shared mission, defeating cancer. How can we improve the prevention? How can we enable earlier detection? How can we enhance diagnostic accuracy? And how can we advance more effective treatments? An especially important development in recent years is the realization that small differences in our genetic makeup and life experiences make every patient's disease unique. This has led us to make treatment increasingly individualized. So rather than treating patients based on where in their body their cancer was first detected, research is helping us identify which patients will benefit from which treatments, ensuring care is more precisely matched to their disease. This is precision medicine, and this is the future of cancer therapy. Today, you will learn a lot more about precision medicine from our special guests. I'm here to tell you why we are close to making this a reality. In the past 5 years, we built a truly national team to help finish the marathon against cancer that Terry started 46 years ago. And it is my pleasure to speak with you today about this initiative, the Marathon of Hope Cancer Centers Network. The Terry Fox Research Institute had a simple vision. We wanted to help close the gap between discoveries made in the laboratory and care delivered in the clinic. The approach was bold, to unite cancer centers across Canada through a truly collaborative platform, and we did it. With 150 million of federal investment and matched to reach a total of 300 million with partners, we have united 54 institutions across Canada, bringing together more than 1,300 people. This includes oncologists, researchers, nurses, administrators, patient partners, donors. Together, we have created this national strategy to bring precision oncology to Canadians, no matter where they live. This national approach allows us to move discoveries into care more quickly, to share results and best practices faster, and to ensure that patients across the country benefit from leading-edge research. Bringing people together to truly collaborate and share knowledge at this scale was not happening before, and I believe no other organization could have made it happen. This is really, truly Terry Fox's spirit and legacy. I could share many examples of how this collaboration is already making a real difference. We are bringing hope to patients with rare cancers, enabling studies that were once fragmented to become stronger and more robust through this network. We are building shared national data platforms, secure biobanks, patient datasets, all to allow discoveries to be tested and scaled, uncovering patterns that no single hospital could do on its own. But this is not only about just collecting numbers, data. Above all, it is about changing the life of cancer patients. And I am also very proud to say that we have embraced the most powerful voice of all of it in this network, which is the patients themselves. They work closely with us to ensure that we are addressing the challenges that matter most to them. This conversation today, led by them, the perfect example. What we have achieved over the last 5 years has been remarkable, and it has positioned us to take precision oncology to the next level for Canadians. To date, network sequencing has informed treatment for over 1,000 patients across the country. Over the next 4 years, as we move into a new phase for our network, our goal is to reach significantly more Canadians, improve equitable access to life-saving treatments, and gather the evidence needed to guide adoption across healthcare system. If we succeed, this will be transformational. As someone who immigrated to Canada 15 years ago to continue developing my career as a scientist, the path forward, I'm like really honored to be involved in this Canadian-wide initiative. And I know the path forward will be challenging, but the impact of extending this network will be profound for patients, for their families, for caregivers, for stakeholders, and not only in major cities, but across the entire country. Having also experienced cancer firsthand as a caregiver to both my parents, this initiative brings me a great deal of hope. Precision oncology will offer options that can lead to better outcomes, and also, as important, to better quality of time spent with the people that we love. And really, all of this began with the vision of one single wise young man, Terry Fox. He showed us that when we try, anything is possible. And it continues today, with the work of thousands of Canadians who are working together like never before to finish this marathon against the cancer. It is my pleasure now to introduce one of these people. Jenny Graham is a member of the network's patient working group. You will see in a moment how fantastic and full of energy she is. And she's here to tell us a bit about her story, what the group does, and why they thought this event was so important. Over to you.
Thank you, Isabel. Hi, everybody. I am joining today from my hometown, which was also Terry's birthplace, Winnipeg, Manitoba. I want to give a huge shout out to the patient working group coordinator Claire Dean for keeping us incredibly organized always. Also, thank you, Catalina, for hosting today. I get so inspired by your passion. It's truly contagious. Thank you, Darrell and Isabel, for your words of inspiration, encouragement, and support. And thanks to all of you for taking the time to join our first ever MOHCCN Patient Working Group Forum session. We are going to learn about precision oncology through the voices of patients, researchers, and clinicians from across the network. My cancer experience began in 2012 when, at the age of 38, I was diagnosed with invasive ductal breast cancer. My treatment included reconstructive surgeries, chemotherapy, and 10 years of hormone therapy. During an investigation of perimenopausal symptoms in 2025, I was diagnosed with endometrial cancer. After a total hysterectomy, removal of uterine tubes and ovaries, I was told, surprise, you also have ovarian cancer in both ovaries, or had, because they're out now. Just like that, 2 new primary cancers. There have been some scary and painful moments in the last 6 months. But despite the fear and pain, I was glad I asked the questions that got me to a diagnosis and treatment. Of course, it would have been even better if there had been an easier way to detect these 2 new gynecological cancers. But here we are. I had my last chemo for the ovarian cancer just over 2 months ago, and now I'm in recovery with no evidence of recurrent disease. I'm transitioning into a follow-up care schedule, and I'm working on emotional recovery. The emotional part has really been tough this time around. So, how has cancer research and precision oncology helped me? Probably more than I realize, because while I was finding out about the double diagnosis, biological marker tests had already been done on my tissue as a part of the standard of care. Things like mismatch repair, or MMR, to see if the cells could repair themselves the way they should be repairing themselves. Testing P53, that's a tumor suppressor gene, for if it was mutated or not. Tests like these help determine what my treatment would include and which direction it could go. For example, if treatment would include chemotherapy or immunotherapy. There's also a history of cancer in my family, so while a few of my genes were tested for mutations in 2014 and 2023, I'm working with the Hereditary Cancer Clinic again to look at a few more of my genes, since I've now had 3 primary cancers. Results of this gene panel will impact future care and/or monitoring for me and my family. A lot of work goes into a personalized treatment and care plan for the complex disease that is cancer. That's why the work being done by the network to bring precision oncology to all Canadians is so important. Strengthening the foundation of what we understand about cancer and shifting our expectations about cancer treatment is making a difference. I'm seeing all these hearts pop up here. It's so wonderful. Thank you. There are many ways to support ourselves through cancer and beyond. For me, working as a patient partner and an advocate has allowed me to share my perspective and contribute to the shift in cancer care. I've volunteered my time at our local Terry Fox run here in Winnipeg, Cancer Care Manitoba, my new group, the Gynecological Cancer Initiative in British Columbia, and obviously the MOHCCN's Patient Working Group. So I just want to tell you that our patient working group is made up of Canadians who, like Terry did, have lived experience with cancer, either through their own journey or supporting someone they love on their cancer journey. While the specifics of our cancer experiences vary, our group is united by one thing, a personal connection to this disease. As a group, we walk with each other as best we can, sharing information, encouraging each other, and ultimately learning about the patient and caregiver perspective as we all fight this disease. And we are not alone. We have the tremendous support of the network, a network that started with one voice, Terry's voice. And I will say that anytime we gather in person, we are also so pleased and encouraged by the voices of researchers and the administration. We get to meet, hang out, share a few laughs, and really feel connected with one another. And that really keeps the spirit of all of this alive. So, as a valued part of the network, we use our voices to shape how the network is working to bring precision oncology to more Canadians. We give advice on what projects get funded, how the network is governed, and how best to communicate these things with cancer patients across the country. One of the things we realized as a group was that not enough Canadians knew what precision oncology was and how the network is working to make it a reality for more Canadians. That is why we decided to organize this Pan-Canadian Patient Forum as a tool for education and empowerment for you, and as a way to better understand what other patients from across the country see as the most pressing issues in precision oncology. The patient working group has been working hard for you since September 2025 to make this forum a reality, and we are so excited to share it with you. Thank you all for joining, and we hope you enjoy today's forum.
Thank you, Jenny, for sharing your story with us. Thank you, Darrell, Isabel, and again, thank you, Jenny. Your words remind us that this movement began with one voice, and today it lives through many. From Terry's vision to the creation of the Marathon of Hope Cancer Center Network, to the lived experience of patients across the country, patients like you that are joining us today across our country, who have shown how and why precision oncology matters. It is how we transform those voices, those stories, into more precise, more personal, and more effective cancer care. But now, the purpose of today, precision oncology. What is precision oncology? I like to start with a simple idea. At its core, cancer is a disease of our DNA, of our genome. Inside every cell of our body, there is DNA, our genetic code, our genome. And this code and this DNA tell our cells when to grow, when to divide, when to stop, and it keeps everything in balance. But sometimes changes happen in our DNA. We call those changes mutations. And when certain mutations affect the genes that control cell growth, that balance is completely lost. The cells start to grow and divide uncontrollably. They don't stop when they should. They don't die when they should. And over time, these cells will form tumors and will become really cancer. So in very simple terms, cancer happens when the instructions inside our cells are altered and when the cells start behaving actually out of control. Now, here's where precision oncology comes in. If cancer is driven by changes in our DNA, in those cells and in those genomes in the cells, then understanding those changes becomes incredibly powerful. Precision oncology is about looking deeply at the DNA of the tumor to understand exactly what is driving that cancer. So not just thinking that, oh, because it's breast cancer, we treat it this way, because it's prostate cancer, we treat it this way. Instead, we treat cancer based on the molecular profile. And we ask the questions, what is unique about this tumor? What is unique about this person DNA and this tumor DNA? We can analyze different levels of information. Sometimes we look at a single gene. Sometimes we look at different genes, a group of different genes and pieces of the DNA. Sometimes we look at the entire 3 billion letters of DNA that make the genetic code. And the more we look, the more we can learn. And as we ask different questions using different type of tests, we can do different things. For example, we can analyze the tumor itself. In my case, my breast cancer was analyzed with genomics. We look at the DNA using the tissue from a biopsy or from surgery. And this will help guide treatment decisions, will help refine the diagnosis, will help also define the prognosis of the tumor and the cancer. So it will help identify therapies that are more likely to work on that specific cancer. We can also analyze DNA from the blood or saliva. And this looks at the genes that we are born with. not just genes that change and are in the tumor, but all the genes that are constitutional DNA. These genes that we really inherit from our parents. And these inherited genes don't change because of cancer. They remain the same, they don't mutate, they don't change, but they can tell us something very important, whether someone has a higher risk of developing cancer in the first place. So these tests are very different. The tumor one, the saliva, the blood. And it's really important for you, for us as patients or family members to ask, what type of test am I getting? How is this test going to be used in my care, for my diagnosis, for my treatment? So over the past 30 years, science and genomics in particular, or the study of DNA, has advanced at an extraordinary pace. What once took years can now be done in days and sometimes in hours. What once cost millions can now be much more accessible in terms of cost. So oncology is one of these areas where the progress is having a profound impact. Genomics is changing the way we treat, we diagnose cancer patients. We have now the opportunity of apply precision oncology. Just use this information in our DNA to guide diagnosis and guide treatment. Precision oncology is not the future, is the present, is how we are actually treating cancer patients today. It is already changing how we diagnose cancer, how we choose treatments, how we refine prognosis, and how patients experience care here in Canada and around the world. And with that, and of course, after hearing Jenny's actual personal story, we are pleased to introduce our STEAM panel for today. We have a clinician, we have a scientist, and we have a patient, and all of us will be discussing about precision oncology in the time we have for this panel. So we have Dr. Caroline Hamm, is a medical oncologist and a clinician research leader at Windsor Regional Hospital and We Spark Health Institute, advancing cancer care through research. Welcome, Dr. Hamm. We have Sachin Katyal. He's a PhD, a senior scientist at the Cancer Center Manitoba, director of the Manitoba Tumor Bank, and provincial lead for the MOHCCN in Manitoba, where he participated in translational cancer research and biobanking initiatives. Welcome, Dr. Katyal. And we have Dan Murphy. Dan is a member of our patient working group, is a father, a husband, a cancer patient advocate, a champion in precision medicine, and a member, of course, of our patient working group. Through the panel conversation today, we will hear these different perspectives from a clinician, from a researcher, and from a patient, and how these and precision oncology today is shaping decisions, opening options, and in many cases, changing the outcomes for patients. And our goal today is very, very simple: to explore the power and the impact of precision oncology for all of us, cancer patients across Canada. So thank you to our panelists for being here today. It is an exciting time, and we will start with questions. I'll start with one question for Dr. Hamm. So the first question actually is coming from a participant in Edmonton, Alberta. And that, reminds me that you can write your questions in the chat. Please share them. They are important for us. We might not be able, depending on the time, we might not be able to address them all today, but we will for sure take them, and they will help us shape our future events and all our activities. So Dr. Hamm, the question that comes from this participant in Edmonton, Alberta is precision oncology changing cancer treatment and outcomes in patients in Canada today? And how are oncologists feeling about all these new technologies, genomics, and all this precision oncology? Are they excited? Are they knowledgeable? Are they skeptical? Tell us.
Thanks, Catalina. Yeah, there's no question. Precision oncology is dramatically changing the world of cancer therapy. I might take a step back just to see how I explain it to my patients. I usually say that, we found a freckle, a certain kind of freckle on your cancer, and we have a target for that freckle, that red freckle. And so we give a drug for that red freckle, and it kills any cell that has the red freckle on it. And so I was at the Canadian Cancer Trials Conference yesterday, and they were reviewing a trial that we had where we had a target for that one red freckle on the cancer, and it was doing extremely well. But what had also had whole genome sequencing, exactly what Marathon of Hope in Canada is doing right now. And what they learned, what it wasn't just the one freckle, is the fact that they had a second green freckle on their cancer. And the combination of those two freckles significantly increased the response. And now we know to look for all the different freckles, all the different mutations, all the different genome changes. And those combinations are so exciting for us to know why this patient's responding and why that patient's not responding. It's such a very exciting time for cancer therapy right now, to see that we are going to be able to predict responses in individual patients. It's amazing.
Wonderful. And do you think that in general, most of oncologists are as excited as you are about this potential for the new technologies?
Yeah, I think most oncologists are. Oncologists, we go to lots of meetings. We do our best to stay up on track with everything that's going on. And we've seen it already dramatically change how we think. That these targeted therapies, these freckles, are what's changing the world and how we're treating people. And it's not just chemotherapy anymore. It's these very special targeted therapies that are really saving lives in our clinics. It is remarkable.
Excellent, excellent. A follow-up question that came from a participant that is located in Calgary. So are there some cancers where precision oncology has been particularly successful? We know there are some cancers maybe are more rare, where more research has been done, more common. So, and maybe some cancers where not only there is more research, but where precision oncology and genomics is becoming standard of care. So what are those cancers, and maybe are there differences between the different type of cancers?
Yeah, for sure. And what we're learning is that cancers aren't where they started. It's not just lung cancer, or not just breast cancer. It's HER2 positive cancer. Breast cancer is an amazing example of this, when we identified the HER2 freckle on the cancer cell, where my women were dying without this treatment. And when that treatment was presented, there really wasn't a dry eye in the room, about 20,000 oncologists, of how impactful that new treatment was for our patients. And now we're learning that HER2 and HER3 and other colored freckles on there are increasing the response of the therapy. So these whole genome sequences are changing what we're doing. Lung cancer, non-small cell lung cancer, the oncologists don't even start treatment until they know what that molecular profile is, what all the freckles are. And when they know, they can start treatment, because they don't want to start without knowing the right way to go. So it's expanding dramatically. I think it's to me, I treat sarcoma. And so I think it's very, it's interesting. It's not great that sarcoma is still a very tough cancer to treat, and we haven't found the freckles for sarcoma yet. We haven't found the molecular genetic mutations that we need to be really impactful in the treatment of that. And I think one thing we need to really work on, that brain tumors, there's some that we just haven't found those mutations that are going to help us really change the lives of these people. And I know it's possible. We didn't even think it was possible in breast cancer, and we see it like dramatically change the outcome in those patients. So I know it's possible. It's just we're not done. That's all. More work to do.
Yeah, lots of work to do, lots of advances made already, and lots of work to do. And it is really, I think, important, the concept you just introduced to us, that is not just about breast cancer or lung cancer or prostate cancer is about those mutations in that cancer, that molecular profile. So I think, well, both Jenny and I had both breast cancer. Our cancers have been treated differently, and our process for diagnosis and treatment is very different, even though it's both women with breast cancer, and it's all because of our molecular profile and our markers and our biomarkers. So thanks for that. And as a follow-up to these, I would like to go to you, Dan, now, and would like to maybe hear from the patient perspective, because of course clinicians are excited about these, they see all the potential, but how is this changing the life and the cancer journey for a patient? How is precision oncology informing the care, your diagnosis? How this precision oncology influence the course of your treatment? Dan.
Thanks, Catalina. First of all, I'm going to say I really like the freckle analogy that Dr. Hamm used. I'm going to borrow that because it's a really effective way to explain it. I was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in June of 2023. Like so many other cancers, it's a disease that has particularly unattractive numbers if you look at the numbers behind it. At that time, I thought that cancer was just one thing. I thought it was just one thing that we got in different parts of our body. Some people got cancer in their lungs, some people got it in their pancreas or whatnot. Since then, through this journey, I've learned that what we call cancer is many, many hundreds of different diseases, really, and much more complex than I would have thought as just somebody going about my day. So for me and precision oncology, I was lucky enough to undergo genetic screening in those early days of just even before my diagnosis when we knew there was something wrong. And subsequent to that, I had a sample taken, so genomic screening was done. And from that, I think the simplest way to explain it is I've had a personalized treatment plan targeted to those freckles that we found on me. I happen to have two that we know about. So I spent the back half of 2023 in a targeted chemotherapy program, which was intended to shrink the cancer, and which it did. It was effective in doing that. And then since then, because of what we know about my genome, I've been on a maintenance drug that's intended to keep things stable, which so far it has been. I consider myself incredibly fortunate because of this. And I'm having great quality of life because of it. So these are some of the things that are real life impacts. Sadly, it's not the case for everyone. We need to get there. And we're at this point where we are kind of getting there. I think it's worth noting that prior to me going down this path, literally at the 11th hour is when we received my genetic results. I would have gone down a different course of treatment with with complete certainty. I would have gone down a different treatment path that I'm not a scientist, but I can safely say it wouldn't have had the same results based on what we know now. So to say that precision oncology has been anything less than like life-changing for my family and I would be a huge, huge understatement. If you told me back in 2023 that I'd be living 3 years later with stage 4 pancreatic cancer with the quality of life that I have been, I wouldn't have believed it. I'm grateful for the science and the care and the treatment that precision oncology is affording me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Don. And, it's incredible how your story shows the power of these in outcomes, in changing patients' and families' lives. In my case, also as a breast cancer patient, I had a test done in my tumor that was critical to decide if I needed chemotherapy or not. And that was a game changer for me because really, as a scientist and as a trained medical doctor, it gave me the confidence that the treatment I was receiving was exactly what I needed based on my genomic profile. So I think this is not only having a physical impact, it's not only just a strong science and great precision oncology, but also emotionally, I think, as you mentioned, is a big deal because you're getting something that is specific for you. So thanks for sharing that. And we are both, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're both, Dan and I, part of the Marathon of Hope Cancer Center Network data set. So our genomes, our DNA is part of this incredible research initiative. We'll talk more about these and how this is having an impact, not just for us, the two individual stories here, but how is this having an impact for all cancer patients across Canada. And with that, I go to you, Dr. Katyal. My next question is coming from one of our registrants that's coming south of the border from Washington, D.C. So we discussed that it's important for patients to participate in research. And again, Dan and I are part of this research initiative. Our genomes are there. So how are researchers like you and others that are part of the Marathon of Hope Cancer Center Network, how are you using that data to bridge the gap between where we are today and what is possible when it comes to precision oncology?
Thanks. That's a very good question. A mentor of mine I respect very much once said, the practice of today's medicine is based on yesterday's research. And so as researchers, years ago, we may be in the lab studying the mating habits of fruit flies or what have you, a lot of theoretical research. But today I'm in this room virtually, and I'm in rooms with medical doctors because of patients like Dan and Jenny and even Catalina, because of their contribution to research, their agreement to participate in research, to contribute their tumor sample. It's allowed us researchers now to use hard tumor samples from patients, generate data, and bridge the gap between a researcher and a clinician. And so now we're at a stage where research can inform care, and it's all because of patients' engagement and their participation. I never would have been in a clinician's office, and a clinician never would have come into a research lab back in the day. And now a clinician and a researcher are embedded together in translational research. That research informed care is made possible because of the patient's involvement. And so now I've got the access to these samples. We can use our bench research techniques, generate genomic data, and that will generate a list of all the different freckles. And some of those freckles are actionable. And we can share that report with the clinician and the patient. And then they can engage with drug companies and industry to bring tomorrow's medicine today. So that's the impact of the network, but that's only there because of patients like Dan, Jenny, and yourself, Catalina. So thank you very much for educating me and for bringing me along that research journey too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Dr. Katyal. Again, this doesn't happen from one day to another one. What we're seeing, the revolution we're seeing and the impact of precision oncology is building on these many, many years, as you say, of research. So now we're going to switch a little bit and we're going to go into a series of questions where I will ask the same question to all of you. And I expect you to give me short and sharp answers. So we're going to go here into short and sharp, one sentence or two, maybe. And we will start with a question that came from a participant from Winnipeg. And we'll start with you, Dr. Katyal, since this is your hometown, Winnipeg. So from your perspective as a researcher, what is today the biggest challenge you see in precision oncology in Canada? What is the biggest challenge?
To me, the biggest challenge is going to be access and access to the medicines, to the drugs. And not from a standpoint of a clinician saying, getting the drug companies to come on board and provide it. All I'm saying as a researcher, we see a lot of drugs in the pipeline that often can take 10 or 20 years to come to market. But we know that those drugs are good candidates. We need to speed that up so that we can get that to be clinically applicable. So access to all the new findings of all the drugs and chemicals that could be used now, we need to speed that up so that we can get that into practice.
Perfect. Yes. Absolutely. Now, Dr. Hamm, from an oncologist's perspective, what is the biggest challenge you see today in precision oncology?
I think I'm going to do two. So I think
Yes.
the access to testing, I think, is still not equitable across Canada. And I think that that to me is the biggest thing. We don't have access for all our cancer patients for access to these tests. And I think that that's the biggest challenge. And then the second challenge for a practicing clinician is try to keep up to date with all the trials, everything that's going around with it, and trying to keep up to date. And I would say that's a place where I will lean on patients, especially my very capable patients that can do the literature research and can come back with information. Not all patients can do that. So I think we're a team, we're trying to move together and trying to really build this knowledge base that we all have together and help everyone. So two problems.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes. And Dan, from your
I,
perspective as a patient.
I agree with Dr. Hamm on the access to testing. I think from my personal experience, getting that genetic screening happening quickly, things move fast. And especially when you're the patient, you want things, you're desperate for things to move fast. In my case, I had the benefit of having a wonderful wife who's a wonderful caregiver, and she had the wherewithal to say in early days, before I was even diagnosed, but we knew something was amiss, she had the wherewithal to say to my family doc, well, hey, Dan's had cancer in his family. Should he get genetic screening done? And sure enough, it happened. Because of that ask, it happened in quick enough time to impact my care. So it's really that access and that advocacy, and sometimes it's empowering the patient, giving the patient the knowledge to be able to ask for it is just so huge.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, access, big challenge to ensure that all Canadians, regardless where they live, regardless of their, location, education, will have access, or where, they're receiving their care, will have access to this test. We still have work to do, and at the Marathon of Hope and Terry Fox Foundation, we're working on that. And I agree, I couldn't agree more with you, Dan, that and you mentioned these, Caroline, I love the way you put it, is that your maybe most engaged patients are helping you find those clinical trials. Because yes, as Dan said, and my own experience, once we get this diagnosis, oh, I became a breast cancer expert, and I could ask my oncologist, even though she has been working for 20 years, in breast cancer, I could come with questions, ideas, suggestions that are for me, because I am the best person to know my journey, to know my family history, to know my symptoms, to know everything in my journey. So empowering the patients to be a key player on that cancer journey, I think is one of the barriers, but that's why, we're organizing this forum today to educate and give all of us, cancer patients and family members, the tools to ask those questions, to be an active part of that care. So we're going to go now to the second question. We just talked about all those challenges, the access, the knowledge about these, but let's now move into more hope. And what do you think are the biggest opportunities in precision oncology for Canadian cancer patients today? So, Dr. Katyal, let's start with you on the biggest opportunities.
So for all the negative press we hear about I think AI is an opportunity because it allows us to deal with the increased volume of data that us human brains can only have a limited bandwidth. So allows computational power allows us to do a deep search of the data, identify more of those freckles. Maybe something's a frecklet, but it's going to become a freckle, right? And identify patterns maybe amongst genetically or culturally distinct populations. We have the tapestry of Canada, which represents the whole world. And so there could be uniqueness amongst different cultural groups that the more engaged patients we have who participate in research, the more sequencing you do of those cancers, we identify additional freckles to act on. And so AI and computational power, as that enhances and increases, I think we're going to see more research strides due by harnessing that power.
Wonderful. Yeah, AI and I think for scientists, for oncologists, and for patients is transforming the whole journey. So I think we could almost do an entire session on the impact AI is having in precision oncology, because it's not just about the changes in your DNA, but it's how can we understand those? How can we match those with clinical trials and, with other aspects of the research process. So let's go now with Dr. Hamm. Your comments here.
I think that the biggest, I'm going to say, advantage we have here is that this is a Canadian developed whole genome sequencing that we're doing. Everything else we have to send to the United States. And in today's political environment, we've realized that we can't always depend on the United States. And it's so important that we're doing this in Canada for Canadians. I just, to me, it's very reassuring that we will have control over this.
Wonderful. Yes, absolutely. And I think we as patients, I say it for myself, I want my data to stay in Canada. I want my samples to stay in Canada. I want to be part of a research network that is benefiting all Canadians. Dan, from your perspective, the opportunities.
Yeah, a little similar to play on the United States thing. It's interesting, when I was diagnosed, people would say, "Hey, Dan, are you looking at going for care in the United States, or some of these cancer centers in the US?" And really quickly, I realized I don't have to. And so for the future and where precision medicine is heading, I just think the Canadian system, and we all like to complain about it, but the Canadian system has so much going for it. Isabel mentioned, I think she said there are 54 centers in the network with 1,300 people. It's probably so many more than that with the people they work with, but with 1,300 people working on this. Those are 54 centers that aren't competing with one another. Those are 54 centers that are aligned in moving this thing forward. So I'm really passionate about it because I'm living this, and to see like how much this Canadian system has going for it. I think we should be incredibly proud of it, and I think we should be incredibly hopeful because of it. And to realize Terry's dream and make precision oncology available for people from coast to coast to coast, I think this system and the passion behind it just represents a massive, massive opportunity and tons of hope.
Yes, and Dan, to that point, I have been working in the field of genomics in the last 25 years, and seeing this network now sharing data, sharing best practices, and helping advance new treatments and improving outcomes for patients across Canada is incredibly powerful. And I say it also as a patient. As a patient, for me, my proudest moment as a genomic scientist is to have my DNA now part of this incredible network. I could have done all the research, but my own DNA being part of this incredible and powerful network is really changing, because it's not for me and for my journey, it's for all of us. It's for the benefit of all Canadians. So we're gonna now wrap up these questions with a final question from a participant in Hubley, Nova Scotia. And it's a question that many of you asked, and it's a question that we discuss also very, very often as part of the patient working group. And it really is linked to how our healthcare system works in Canada. We know that we have different, types of healthcare system in the different provinces. Different tests are reimbursed or cover. Different medications are reimbursed or cover. So we'd like to understand how we can make precision oncology available for all Canadians, giving those differences we have in each province. That sometimes, I remember even during COVID, we used to say that we function almost as 13 different countries, because we are so different in how we deliver healthcare. So let's start with you, Dr. Hamm, from a clinical oncologist perspective. How you see we can deliver this promise and this reality of precision oncology in different provinces?
There's a few initiatives happening in Canada to try to make this more equitable. They're this decentralized trials where we have one trial that has a main hub, and then the smaller sites will pick up pieces of that trial, and trying to bring clinical trials like a Marathon of Hope trials to centers. And then we run another program out of Windsor called the Clinical Trials Navigator, where we try to bring patients to clinical trials. So if we identify a targeted therapy in Toronto, can we bring a patient from Nova Scotia to Toronto for that treatment? In fact, that's what we do. We're breaking down a lot of these provincial barriers as to, what keeps people out of going across provinces. We're figuring out the insurance, we're figuring out some financial issues, and we're talking with sponsors, with PIs, to try to make sure that this is a value added for the patient. So we're doing a lot and work on that. We've got a lot of partners we're working with, the Canadian Cancer Society, CCTG, obviously Marathon of Hope, and so we're moving that forward in terms of trying to build that for patients.
Perfect. Thank you. Dr. Katyal.
Yeah, a part of one of the themes is equitable access, and one of the mandates of the Marathon of Hope is engagement. And we're now moving into the second phase of the Marathon of Hope, and they're challenging us to do that engagement piece. And we're collectively working together, coming up with creative ways to engage. So here in Manitoba, what we've started doing is reaching out to some of our northern citizens, and some of our Aboriginal citizens, and that those engagement conversations have now started taking place. We're actually getting commitment to engagement so that we can bring the Marathon of Hope Cancer Center Network program to them. Instead of having them come to us, we can go to them. So I think that barrier is starting to break down so that we can have all of Canada involved. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's starting to happen.
Perfect. Thank you. And Dan?
I think that the gold cohort that we've talked a little bit about, and to remind the people on the call that kind of what it is, there's a database that's been created of 15,000 samples that the Marathon of Hope Cancer Center Network has done. So for me, that gold cohort makes the world a lot smaller place. To give it some personal perspective, my one freckle puts me in about a little subset of cancer, pancreatic cancer patients, maybe 5% or less. And then that second freckle is also kind of 5% or less than those. So I'm not a mathematician, but we can agree that puts me in a very small number. My wife likes to say I'm very unique. It puts me in a small number of patients. My oncologist, I'm in Toronto, and it's not lost on me how lucky I am to be in a major center. I'm blessed to have the resources that are here. But my point is, by having that database and having it effectively used by those 54 cancer centers today across the country means that data you wouldn't see many of these cases like mine, and rarer cancers are even more. There are far more rare cancers, but you wouldn't see that many cases like mine in a major center, let alone a small center. So now whether you're in, Truro or Toronto or Trois-Rivières, you've got access that your oncologist, just from not even from a research perspective, but that oncologist today gets to see data from patients that may be like you, and life-changing. And so as this is getting tapped into, it's really, really, I think, from patient perspective, really, really an amazing part of this to make things available to everyone.
Yeah, and Dan, maybe to add to that point, I think I give a little bit of context. I think one of the challenges of genomic research, not just in Canada, across the world, has been that lots of data has been generated over the years, but everything has been kept in little silos. Like this group generates this data, this group generates this data, and we don't share it, we don't aggregate it, we don't integrate it. And that's why initiatives like this one, and thinking big and thinking not just about my project, but about cancer patients in general, is a game changer. And I think that what we're facing now is that realization of a game changer. Dr. Katyal, I think you have another comment. Go ahead.
Just to bring up that point, it's a very good point, Catalina, in that back in the day, us researchers, we'd spend the money to generate the data and says, this is my data, this is our cohort. But there's been a shift in how we approach things. The program like Marathon of Hope has allowed us to all share, to work together, and we understand. We as scientists don't own the data, the patients own the data. The patients own the sample. They are making a contribution. We are the stewards. And in that mindset now that the patients are the ones who control their data and control that sample, that has, I think, had a domino effect of that sharing attitude amongst researchers and clinicians.
Absolutely, absolutely. Patients in control of their data, that's also something huge. And I think, from a perspective of funding agencies, also, I think there is a better understanding now that one great project working in a silo, it has very limited impact on cancer patients or on, outcomes. And that's why we need to aggregate. So the patient ownership and the fact that aggregating the data is a truly game changer, I think is hopefully will help us break the barriers we have by, having different systems in different provinces. So we have heard a lot today about, and of course our audience is all cancer patients, or most of them cancer patients, caregivers, family members. So I would like you, each of you, to think, what are your recommendations for a patient? Because we talk about, patient empowerment, the patient has to be knowledgeable, empowered. What would you recommend to a person that is diagnosed recently or that has been going through this cancer journey? How can they be empowered? And what will be, the recommendation for them to be an active part of their care team, not just a receptor, but an active part of their care team? And I will start with you, Dr. Hamm.
Thank you. I think that as cancer becomes like dance cancer, smaller and smaller, divided into smaller and smaller pieces, it's going to be really hard for any doctor to stay on top of these 3,000 cancers when it used to just be lung cancer and breast cancer and 3 treatments, right? And so to try to stay on top of that and figure all that out, it's going to be really difficult. And so there are patient groups, and patients come to me all the time with information from their patient groups that they've come back with, or information that they've found by just doing their own research. And so I think it's really important that patients do that research and bring it back to the oncologist and say, well, look what I found. This is what they're doing. This is what they're saying on the patient groups, because the patient groups are very smart and very powerful and very knowledgeable. And so they often pick up stuff before the oncologist has time to, with everything else that the oncologist is doing, just not that one, 2.5% of pancreatic cancers that Dan has, right? So it's like, it's those many little boxes that we can't keep up on by our own. We just have to work as a team.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's so much information, and I can't even imagine for a clinician now, absorbing all that. So great. The patients are, again, at the center of that care and should be actively looking for the information. So, Dr. Katyal.
So, unfortunately, my family members have recently gone through cancer, and I lost a loved one last year to cancer. And so my answer may slightly annoy Carolyn, but as a patient, don't just accept what's told to you. Challenge your clinician. When you said, this is your treatment, this is how we typically do it. What else is there? There's so much technology. What else can we use? Ask, challenge, talk to other patients, talk to other clinicians, talk to scientists. Word of mouth can be very powerful to gain information, and empowers you to go back to your clinician saying, I want something more, I want something better.
Yeah, and I think, Dr. Katyal, you touch a very important point, and it is a bit challenging to say, but it's real that not all oncologists have the same knowledge, the same passion, the same understanding, the same experience for precision oncology, and is the patient really who has to push the boundaries and ask the questions and don't be afraid to, as you say, to challenge your oncologist. I remember I made a presentation. My oncologist invited me a while ago to make a presentation. And I say in front of all the audience, which, I'm not sure how my oncologist felt about that, but I say, I am a pain in the neck in a way for my oncologist because I always ask questions, questions, questions. And but I'm glad maybe she doesn't feel I'm a pain in the neck, Dr. Hamm, like you say. Maybe she feels happy that I'm bringing, I'm an active, totally active participant in my care. And I think this is the way care should evolve. We are a team. We are not the receptor. We are part of that team with the nurses, with the radiologists, with the oncologists, with the surgeon, with all of them. Dan, I think
I
you have the last word on the patient empowerment, and we're looking forward to your comments here.
Okay. So when I found out I was sick, I went and had a coffee with a family friend who was a retired gastroenterologist. And it really stuck with me. He recommended, he said, Dan, you need to be respectfully aggressive. So it follows in the lines of this conversation we're having, respectfully aggressive. So if you're a patient out there watching this right now, kindness is important, but don't be shy to be respectfully aggressive and asking and asking those questions and digging in. I think for me, or have a caregiver that's good at being, bring your caregiver who's good at being respectfully aggressive. I think that's kind of the big thing. And then also, all of this is very intimidating. You know, not only do I see my oncologist on a regular basis, who's, accomplished and so there's some intimidation in that. I spend time with people like I'm spending time with on this call, and I'm wowed by their science. Take a deep breath, and ask the question, even if you think it's a dumb question, ask the question of the medical professionals. They've heard it before, and it's not a dumb question. And be a part of be a part of the process. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and 2 points on that. One is the role of the caregiver, and we didn't have time today, but that's another aspect we want to explore in the future because there is so much, as you say, Dan. Sometimes we patients are intimidated. We're so afraid. We're so shocked what is happening to us that we don't even have questions. We don't even are able to think very clearly when we go to see our oncologists. And as our caregivers that are the ones that are pushing the system, asking the questions and keeping everything on track. So those individuals, being at our side are critical. Done. Any other comment?
Yeah, just tying to that is this is a dumb one, but it's really important. Take a book, early days especially, take a notebook in with you to all those appointments because Catalina just mentioned it. There's a lot going on and there's a lot of confusion, and you might not have the question in that moment, but if you take that book home and reflect on things and write your questions down in that book for your next appointment, that's, that's a super, super important tip.
Yeah, oh, I see lots of hands coming up here. But yeah, maybe another comment I'll give as a patient, and I'll go to Dr. Hamm and Dr. Katyal. Another comment I'll give here is that don't be afraid as a patient to share some of the challenges you're facing. I was surprised when I was doing my chemotherapy that we always have a questionnaire of 20 questions. And I was providing, yes to this, and providing all the information. But most of the patients were saying, oh, no, nothing. No, I didn't feel that, I was like, no to all the questions. And some patients after share with me that they were afraid that if they answer yes, maybe their care will be retarded but actually, when you answer the reality of what's happening, this will be critical to inform your own care and to inform science in general and to inform medicine. So don't be afraid to, share with your care team what is happening with you and with your body and with your physical and emotionally. I think both should be brought together. Dr. Hamm, your comments.
I really like Dan's idea of bringing a book, because coming in, you can't have a free flow conversation with your oncologist. Literally have 15 minutes maybe with your oncologist. And so being organized is super important. Come in, have your questions and answers, and then the doctor won't get tired of answering your questions if you're organized. It's just, if it's this, they think it's this free flow conversation, like you're sitting around having a coffee. You're not. It's a business. You have to get through the work of the day. And so it's really important to stay organized before you, like, be organized as things will come up and you'll think of them in the moment. That's nothing wrong with that, but at least come with some kind of organization before you go into the doctor's office. I will say it's 3,000 times easier to take care of a patient that is engaged in their care. If they're not engaged in their care, it's very difficult to figure out what's going on with them and how you're going to help them when they're not even giving you all the information that you need to know. And so an engaged patient is the best patient. And I will say, I acknowledge the fear in talking to a doctor. I always say it's like we're the border control agents that you swear at the whole time you're in lane waiting for them. And the minute you get in, you're sweet as pie and you don't say anything bad. Like, I know everybody knows that happens. Everybody knows they're afraid of us. But if you write it down, you're likely to say it out loud, because then you can't leave the room without talking about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And talking about the notebook, what I do is I write on my phone, and I have a note that is questions for my oncologist. And since my first appointment in June 2023, I have all the questions I've asked my oncologist there written. And every time I say, oh, I asked this question again. Well, doesn't matter. I didn't get an answer. I'm going to ask it again and again. Or I'm looking for circulating tumor DNA that I haven't got yet. And this is a question I have in every single appointment. And I will ask it again and again and again at every single appointment. But as you say, I'm glad to hear from an oncologist now, Dr. Hamm, from your perspective, that is, if you don't feel like threatened or afraid by having an informed patient. On the contrary, you feel, it's easier. We make your life easier because we bring our whole selves with information, with knowledge, as an active partner in that care. Dr. Katyal.
So being the son of a cancer patient, and going through this process last year, caregiver burnout is real. And when there are a lot of resources out there in the public healthcare system, don't be shy about saying, sure, yes, okay, I'll use it. Because if it's not just for your own care, it's also to help your caregivers give that care. And so find out about the resources when they're offered to you. Don't immediately say, no, I think we're okay. Find out, what does that mean? What's the impact, not just for yourself as a patient, but for your caregivers too.
Oh my God, Dr. Katyal, I think my partner will love you for saying that. She was like burned out after a year. She was like superwoman with me, helping me, supporting me through my entire process. And at the end, I was diagnosed in April, and after chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and everything, she was like, I don't think, and she had to, ask for a leave at the university and everything. It's real, as you say, it's real, and we have to acknowledge it, and we have to embrace it, and we have to, face it as a true reality. Okay, so I think now we are coming to our end of our session for the question and answers. What a message. I think we have touched so many things. And I thank you, Dr. Hamm, Dr. Katyal, Dan, for your contributions today, for sharing your expertise, for sharing your stories with all of us. What an incredible and powerful panel. And I think the biggest takeaway I have from this conversation is that we have actually now transitioned from a time where patients play a passive role in their care to a patient that is empowered and that is an active part of that cancer care, where partners work closely with clinicians, with research, to guide their diagnosis, to guide their treatment plans, and also to help advance cancer care in our country. So as you saw the examples we have here with Jenny, with Dan, with myself, we're all patients. We are all engaged with our clinicians. We are all engaged with our cancer care team, but we are also engaged with research across Canada. We are hoping that our journeys are not only, and our engagement is not only helping us, but helping many others across Canada. So we are now, I think, in the new time of patient-centric care. Is the true patient-centric care. And this is really at the heart of what the network is doing. We're putting patients at the center. We're starting with that vision Terry had. And, Terry Fox is inspiring us every day. I have my t-shirt here for you. We're finishing this marathon all together, and we're working together to ensure that this vision Terry had is embodied by all of us and is really putting that patient at the center of the care. And with that, I will bring back Jenny Graham, back to our virtual stage. Thank you again to our panelists today. You were absolutely brilliant. And Jenny will give us her final remarks on behalf of the patient working group. Jenny, all yours.
Thank you, Catalina. Thank you to our panelists for that wonderful conversation. Whew. I don't know about you all, but I really appreciated, way back an hour ago here, Catalina's overview of cancer as a genomic disease. This is some foundational facts that we need to, begin building our understanding to support the shift to precision oncology as a standard of care. As well, I learned a lot from all of you about how precision oncology can impact the cancer experience. And the spirit of teamwork was really evident from each of you. And I really appreciated that. So thank you. Another thing I want to just highlight is everyone's storytelling. Through conversation, storytelling is such a great way to learn about each other, and it really underscores the importance of the patient experience shaping the future of cancer. To that point, I just wanted to mention to everyone here that the Network Patient Hub, our Patient Working Group Hub page, has many more personal stories from the Patient Working Group members and other helpful information about precision oncology. So be sure to check that out when you have some time. It's quality scrolling, I will say. The network's communications team is so supportive of all of us. They have helped bring our stories to life, to, cohesion, and we sound amazing. And so they have really helped us connect with all Canadians about precision oncology, about our own stories. So again, be sure to check out the Patient Hub. It's my chance to plug that. Now, how can we as Canadians and our friends from across the globe who may be watching this now or in the future, how can we support the shift towards making precision oncology a part of that standard cancer treatment for all? Learning about precision oncology is a great first step, which is what we've done today. One other thing, information at the core of our treatment. We've got Dr. Katyal working in the background, but coming to the foreground as a researcher. We've got Dr. Hamm, where the rubber hits the road with Dan, with the patients. These are all seriously important interactions. So feel empowered and feel that you are at the center of your care. Get the information you need to direct your care. Okay, so how can we do more? If you have more questions, I notice there's questions in the Q&A section. You can pop your question into, just click on the bubble at the bottom of your screen. We will, as Catalina mentioned, we will get to all the questions in some form of another. We have a lot of ideas for future forum sessions, but we want to hear from you. And so now, as we wrap up, we're getting to the final wrap up of the wrapping up. I wanted to share a few words on behalf of my beautiful colleagues on the patient working group as it relates to what Catalina just said. So when we're faced with something daunting like cancer, we may ask, what can I do? It's very stressful. There's a lot of information coming at us. But just as we've learned about the small steps, making huge strides in precision oncology on your journey, whether you're a person living with cancer or you're supporting someone going through cancer, or maybe you're a person researching cancer, take one step at a time. No matter how small it may seem to you in the moment, Every step adds up, and each step will move you closer to your goal. There's a lot of drops in the ocean, and the ocean has a lot of big waves. So that's what we want to have happen here. We really hope the information and the conversations in this forum will empower you to shape the direction of your care. I think that is a well-supported idea from the panel here. Feel confident to ask questions. Let your care team know your preferences and your needs. Remember, you can decide how much information you want and at what level of detail. And also, this is a flexible world here. Lots of changes coming along. You may be in follow-up care for years. You may be in treatment for many years. And I'm just thinking about all my friends that are living with cancer. We're thinking about you. And we all know that as you learn, as you grow, your journey is going to take you in different ways, good, bad, ugly. But if you decide one day that you want more information, that's okay too. Communicate with your team. And we encourage you to continue to learn more and ask questions of your doctors and of researchers. Let's make that shift happen. We did put together a list of suggested questions. Dan mentioned a lot of great ones, Catalina as well. We are all in those conversations together. So don't rush to write these things down, because Claire's going to be emailing everybody with some links on Monday, okay? So these are some of the things that we had put together for questions. What precision oncology testing has been done so far? Who can help understand my results? Will results lead to new targeted treatment options for me? And if not, what else can precision oncology testing help us learn about the cancer I have? Remember to ask those questions regularly, if at every appointment, like Catalina, because available testing and treatment options can change. They do change all the time. So as I mentioned, tomorrow you're going to get a follow-up email with a couple of things you can act on today. Remember, small things can add up. Click on our post-event survey, please, and provide questions that you have. We just have a few questions for you to help guide future forums. And number 2, the email is going to give you some links to the documents that your patient working group, your network patient working group has created for you with you in mind. So a summary of what we learned today will be there, and a printable tips and takeaways sheet that you can, have in your binder. I suggest add a binder. I have a binder of all my information, and I carry it around like it's my best friend, but it isn't. Okay, so please fill out our post-seminar questionnaire. Check out the documents. And above all, remember you are not alone on your cancer journey. Across the country, patient advocacy and support groups exist. These are great spaces for you to share your story, connect with people who are going through the same thing as you are. There can be some really low moments, like you're pancaked on the floor during your experience. Sometimes you're just trying to eat that cracker so you can take the med, right? They don't only impact you, but they impact the people around you, the caregivers, the loved ones. So if you need to, explore what psychosocial supports are available to you and your family. I did see a question in the chat. So to you put that question in there. Thank you for raising that up. I would suggest that you contact your immediate care team and see what resources are available in your area. You can do phone appointments with a counselor. I met with my counselor on Friday. You think you don't need it, but you really do. They're there for you. It's a real thing. Your family members, your loved ones can also tap into that resource. So please take the time for yourself to do that. And sometimes talking it out one-on-one with someone makes a huge difference. We're in it for the long haul, right? I want to say a special shout out right now on behalf of the patient working group. Anyone who's supported or who is supporting a person with cancer, we see you. We appreciate you. We want you to know that your support means everything, because we really couldn't be here without you, and we need you. So thank you so much. We always talk about you in our meetings. We don't know you, but we know you. For everyone on the journey, it's okay not to be okay. Or it's okay to not be okay. And it is okay to take care of yourself. When you're feeling hopeless, just remember the thousands of patients, researchers, doctors, nurses, social workers, fundraisers, and administrators across the country. They are working tirelessly to find better ways to prevent, detect, diagnose, and treat cancers in ways that improve the outcomes and quality of life for patients. In 1980, Terry Fox started a marathon against cancer. Together, we can finish it. Now, before I hand it back to Catalina for our last goodbye, I also want you to invite you to register. Join your local 2026 Terry Fox Run. It is Sunday, September 20th. So you can visit terryfox.org to register yourself or a team for your local run. Tell everyone about it and encourage them to join in. The local events are awesome. That's where Sasha and I hang out. Um, and everyone's welcome. You can run if you want. You can walk, you can roll, you can stroll, you can ride or stride. And it is a good family and community event. And we hope that you take the time to join. Thank you so much.
Well, Jenny, very difficult to follow after this intervention. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think we're all now feeling very emotional. So thank you for, being such a great advocate and having such a strong voice that represents all of us. And thank you to our panelists today, to our speakers, to everyone that participated and helped organize. We hope that now precision oncology is not weird term that seems like science fiction, but something that really you see as having a direct impact in your cancer care. So, and as Jenny say, you're not alone. We are many here to support your journeys. So thanks for these, powerful, powerful, powerful words, Jenny, and again to all of you. I want to remind you a couple of more practical things. First, this of course is recorded, so keep an eye, because now you could share it with your caregivers, with your network, with your friends. They could watch it later in their time, pieces. They could watch little pieces whenever they have time. So just keep an eye on the link, because that, again, an important piece for us is to make sure everyone could access to these recordings. So we're going to be sharing those links for the recording later on. The other important aspect is we will have a very similar forum next Sunday in French. So if you know people in Quebec or French-speaking Canadians that are interested and would like to participate, make sure you share the information so that they can register. And thanks, Jim, for the reminder on the chat. And we will be, of course, looking forward to having many, many participants on the French forum too next week, May 3rd. May 3rd, keep it in your calendar, share it with your network. So again, I would like to thank everyone, and you in particular, the people that join us today, help us, as Jenny mentioned, filling the survey. That's important because it's our way to capture your feedback. We're capturing the questions here. We will be keeping all those questions and following up, and some of them, they are super important for us. Thank you to all that participated: Isabel, Claire, Darrell, Peter, like so many people. Summer, that we know is here with us in the background. We thank you for being all, supporting us. And thank you to the Marathon of Hope Cancer Center Network. You are making a reality of, spaces like these that are critical for us as patients, for doctors, oncologists, scientists across the country to work together. We're gonna, as you say, we're gonna run together in September. We're gonna finish these together. Thank you all, and goodbye.